And start record. All right, guys, let's start off by having a look at our 4-hour Bitcoin. So this is something we previously have done plenty of analysis on, especially this range, as we have been moving around here for, I mean, you're getting 67 days, you're getting closer to 70 days now, basically 2.5 months of choppy sideways between 68. It's slightly higher than that, like 66, upwards of 74, with deviations upwards of 76. It's been a range for the last couple of months. At the moment, I did send an update in my Outlook channel a couple of days ago, where I was discussing the two scenarios that I was preferably at that time, which had the highest probabilities to me. At the moment, some things have changed, especially with our upwards momentum being extremely strong, and we are like continuing this grind towards the upside. We did see an initial rejection around that 73, which is still a level of interest for us when it comes to short, or for me, looking at that potential lower high for getting that leg down. The reason of which we did have that initial short in place was for us to potentially be looking at, we had 3 levels really in mind, and we have seen a decent rejection out of all of them, but we have continued back towards the upside. So at the moment, we were initially looking for a multi 1-2, meaning that we were looking for an impulsive structure back towards the downside to come back down and grab your lows at 60k. I still think these macro lows will be taken out, but there is a chance here where we do spend a few months of sideways or chop before that happens. We have already done so. We've been moving sideways for 2, getting upwards of 3 months soon. So that is, that's no surprise there. At the moment, we did break past our structure high of around 71,760, which gave us a break of structure. That is our macro structure we did have to play with. We had a high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. Then we formed some internal structure, and then eventually we did break through. This does increase the odds that we are eventually going to sweep these highs, especially since this did confirm that the structure down was a corrective 3 wave. We have a 1, 2, 3 towards the downside. Extremely clean with our structure now pushing towards the upside. But the thing we were previously looking at, especially for this short, was a incomplete structure back towards the downside. We were looking for one more leg towards the downside to confirm both within time and a larger structure, such as similar to what we have on our initial structure up, which was this move back up here, this potential A wave. So we were looking for, it was an A wave. Then we had a 3 down, looking for a corrective structure and another leg down. This low was made prior to the 32 time fib. So if I take my time fibs, so it's this trend-based fib time, from your lows and to your highs, and you double click at the highs, you will see that we have a 382 fib, which is considered our minimum target typically for our structures to be connected. So if you're looking at this as a correction of this upwards momentum structure we had, typically want to see the low being made after that 382 fib extension, time fib extension. Preferably, we always have our preferred zone, which is between the 618 and the 121 fib extension. So technically speaking, you do still have time to potentially come back down, sweep the lows before we're looking at potentially another leg towards upside. So this still remains a one of my scenarios, of which I will still be watching and looking at, especially if you do get another leg towards the downside locally. So I'm talking about this local structure here. If you do see a lower high and a rejection, that rejection is going to show a lot, especially if you're looking at your most common structure, which would be the ABC. It would be an aggressive rejection next, essentially, because you would be anticipating a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave structure back down, with the 3 wave being the most aggressive one, which is what you would expect as the next structure if you're looking at this as your normal ABC structure down. Now, corrective structures do become more and more tricky, especially when you have B waves. B waves are something a lot of people avoid to trade. Whether this B wave is done here or if we're going to see one more low. That's the question we really gotta have in mind at the moment. Is that since this previous high, we are either looking for that structure down, which brings us all the way back to the lows, or we're just looking for your most common structure, which would be a normal ABC structure down here. You get an impulsive lower high here, and then we start grinding, and then you see aggressive volume starting to kick in, where we do see that follow through back towards the downside. But technically speaking, that 382 is not an invalidation. It is a minimum target, but it's just a probability type structure, which means that this was made prior to the 382. Doesn't make that it's impossible for market to just continue here back towards the upside in the impulsive manner. And those odds have slightly increased because of what this structure did towards the upside. That we might just chop sideways here, or we do see a correction, but we do not grab the lows, and we do get another leg back towards the upside. Because commonly known, if you're looking at the structure down, this would be your A wave, that structure up would be your B, and we will be looking for a C wave structure down. A B wave always has to be 3 wave structures. But if you initially look at this, it looks quite 3 wavy, especially with this beginning. But here we do have some fib extensions coming into play. That if you do take a fib extension, our most common way to count this would be this as our A wave. We have some sort of a complex B wave in here, and this is some sort of a 5 wave up in a C. Let me make that B again. It doesn't look like a B. Where we do have some sort of a 5 wave up in a B, C to finish that structure off. Now this C wave, if we take our fib trend-based fib extensions from your lows to the highs and back to the lows again, you can see that we crossed up into that 1618. A common ABC reaches the 1-to-1, which would have been, the rejection earlier at around the 71. An extended C wave typically reaches between the 1272 and the 132, so that you're looking between 721 and 726. A soft invalidation, and something that increases the odds that this is not the high, and that we are most likely or potentially going to start building our way back up towards the highs of 76, is when we start reaching that 1618 fib extension. And we have done so, which, is starting to increase the chance that this is just going to be another higher low, which gives us a proper follow through back towards the upside. We can, of course, still see another leg towards the downside, but we do need to be aware of that there are increased probability that this structure towards the downside is not going to sweep the low, but what we're going to do is make a higher low, which gives us another leg back towards the upside. So that's also another thing, why this next structure down, and if you do get the next structure down, is going to tell us a lot about what's going to happen next, and a lot about what's going to, what different scenarios starts being more and more favored over the other. So at the moment, you're obviously seeing a rejection around this zone. This is where you would want to see us reject from. It's going to be around the 72,580, 72,6 if you're looking for a lower high and a lower low. And that lower low, which we do form, if you do get, if we're looking for the impulsive structure, and if you're looking for that full-on continuation down, you want to see a drastic increase in volume. You want to see, we have previously, I'm going to turn on volume here. You can see that we have a high increase of volume on that push up, but what we want to see is, this starts making its way down here. This, maybe we grind a bit, and then you want to see this like boom, smash through here. And we want to see a big spike in volume for us to potentially get this larger leg towards the downside. At the moment, your largest volume spikes are the moves back towards the upside. Upside move. This one was downside, but that was during that correction. And so on and so forth. These are all also upside moves. So the bullish momentum has been very strong. And as we are moving currently, there are counts, especially elite wave counts, where we have potentially some sort of an ABC structure in here, where it's a flat structure, where this is your C wave. We have an initial A wave, B wave, and a C wave. This is a complex corrective structure, which now would make sense if you do start building your way back towards the upside again. And if you do take out the highs of around 73,800, there are very high chances of sweeping up 76 and starting to make your way towards 80, 78, 78, upwards of 79, with your extension levels being at 84k. So these would be the primary levels I would be watching for towards upside, with how we are currently moving around the current price. Especially after tapping the 1618 fib extension, unless we are still looking for it. So I'm still being aware that this is going to be potentially a lower high, because we did have an internal structure break. So I'm still going to be aware of that. But I do need to see some type of a local distribution at the highs. Because we do have a local accumulation at the lows. You have some sort of a rounded bottom type structure. So if you want to see some sort of a rejection in here, we look at the 15-minute structure, and we can then look for that lower high, which does give us a nice target initially back towards this low, and then we can leave a runner downwards of this low at 65k. But as how we are currently moving, there are no shorts for me here, even though it is a place where I am, generally speaking, interested in shorts. We are trading in the upper part of the range, which, again, shorts are more favorable in the upper parts. We are in the premium zone, but we still can't be trading against the momentum. The momentum which currently is up. We can see here a low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. Now we did close candles below our previous low. It's not a strong break, but we did close below. So there's some weakness there, but we did not close below the wicks. So we are still holding on. There's no proper structure break yet within that time frame on the 4 hour. But there are, weakness. There's signs of weakness. But there's not enough for me to where I can just, okay, I'm just going to fall apart this thing and I'm super confident in it coming back down. No, we tapped the 1618. There are an increased probability that we do make our way back up again because of that. So that is just something that I'm just going to put out there that we sort of have to stay aware of, is that with the way we are currently moving, this V wave could be finished. Where we do have an A wave on the move up, we have a B wave potentially already finished on the move down, which we're now making our way in some sort of an impulsive wave or, some complex structure here back towards the upside, where we can then start looking at sweeps of 76k, upwards of 79, 78, with extensions at 84 to 86. But yeah, that next structure, like the next move is I'm gonna say next 24 hours is really gonna tell us quite a lot. So keep an eye on that for sure. So yeah, I mean, that's primarily what I would be looking at when it comes to BTC, is going to be that next structure, especially since quite a few alts. We're to look at the diversion here between different altcoins and BTC. I previously, I don't know if I posted it. Maybe I did. No, we talked about it in the New York Open. Is Solana. Solana looks vastly different from BTC. So obviously, if we look from the structure down, this push down is quite shallow. If you look on BTC, it is a deeper correction, but it's not as deep as you were to look at some other pairs. The push up has been quite strong, which we can clearly see, and the momentum has been, continuing here back towards the upside. There's no absolute clear count on this move up. It is very choppy, it's very groundy, very overlappy, makes it difficult. But momentum is in the favor of more upside, so we're really just gonna watch it drop down lower time frames and we trade what structure we do get from there. We had a bit of a long scalp in here, which I mentioned this morning, back around that 71k zone, and we are in that zone where shorts are starting to be more favorable on the lower time frames, where we do potentially look for that lower high into a lower low type scenario. But enough of that. Let's have a look at Solana. Solana was one of the pairs which looks very different from BTC. I'm gonna hide this a bit. And that is because of the difference in structure. I mean, initially, the push down was more aggressive. It's a larger move back towards the downside. It is more aggression inside of the move. Starting off with that, we did not get a proper push up on this current correction as we did get on the move, as we did get on BTC. Because this move up on BTC is upwards all of the imbalance that we're taking up, essentially trading upwards of that 786 Fibonacci. If I look at Solana, you can see that we did, we barely reached the 0.5. So for this to potentially still see another leg towards upside would make sense, especially with the structure that we do have. So we can initially start off by looking at time fibs again, taking our time fibs from the highs to the lows, and double click at the lows. You can see that that initial correction, which we right now have, the high was made prior to the 3-2 fib, which again increases the probabilities that the high is going to be taken out. Not only that, but the structure we had over weekend, which on Solana, not Solana, on BTC, this high right here came back all the way up and we swept the high by, a decent margin. You got the sweep up, which made, the high within a valid zone in terms of time. Now, Solana did not do that. Instead, what you made is a very nice 3-wave corrective structure towards the upside, giving you an impulsive move back down, giving you a very clean A, B, C structure. 3-wave structure, very clean 3-wave structure over the weekend, especially into Sunday sell-off, with the sweep of your low at 81.34 being your minimum target and SFPing it. So we've got the SFP, perfect sweep, which, gives us the probabilities that this A high, which I've marked out as an A, is most likely going to be taken out to form a larger corrective structure, which would leave this previous 4-hour gap as a level of interest, as well as trading up to the 0.9 to the 1-to-1 fib extension. If you're looking at A, B, C, A equals C in length, that is the 1-to-1 extension. That is our common target for an ABC corrective structure. So even if you're looking at a lower high here, you still have quite some upside potentially to be had for Solana before we are eventually looking for either a correction back down, or this sees the larger push up and we get to break. I mean, those are the two most obvious cases here, where we do have the larger, again, same as BTC, A, B already in play, where we're then starting to make our C wave back towards the upside. So that is one of the scenarios. But, the structure of which we have at the moment would suggest that at the moment, the probabilities until our low at $81 is taken out, that we are going to come back up and sweep our highs of $87 to get that push up upwards of that 91.5, $90, and then we take it from there. If we do break above that 4-hour imbalance at 90.53 and we close above on a 4-hour candle, the odds start increasing that we are going to make our way all the way back to the highs, which is going to be the 1618 fib extension at $98, which would then be playing into a similar looking structure as we have on BTC. And that is a bit of a divergence there between altcoins and BTC. Is the difference in structure, which also does increase the probabilities that this potentially is a flat structure. This is some sort of a corrective structure over the weekend, which we are now potentially starting to make our way back towards the upside here to form a larger impulsive structure, which does bring us back up to 76, 78, potentially 79, with the extended targets at 84. So next 24 hours is really going to be key for, I would say, the next 2 weeks of price action, the next structure, next 24 to 48 hours. So I'm really, really keeping an eye on that to see what structure we do form on this next push towards upside. Will it increase the probabilities that we are going to make our way back towards the swing high, or are we going to see a sharp grinding structure with an increase of volume that does bring us back to the lows of around 65k? And then after that low of 65k, that's when we have more information, and then we can start seeing if do we start panning out in the structure, do we start forming, choppy grinding structure here. Then potentially we could be starting to look for an impulsive structure back up again for the larger structure A, B, C. That would give us that larger push up. Any questions on BTC or Solana? And if you guys did come late, watch back the stream, the recording, I mean. If there's no questions around those two pairs, I would move on to some altcoins maybe. I think it's quite clear what we're looking at the moment. But we can move on. Let's see here. Ethereum. Ethereum saw, again, same as BTC, a larger push up. Almost tapped the 886 fib. Once we do pass the 8.8 or the 886 even, there are increased probabilities, especially in Elliott waves, to sweep the highs of 2384. It doesn't mean it has to happen now, but it does increase the probabilities we are eventually going to come back up there, and that this is not going to be the high that gives us that larger push back towards the downside. I'm just going to start off there. Previously, we mentioned we had this level marked out here at 2170. I said this high has to be taken out for potential bullish case scenarios, which it did. The structure up again looks extremely three-wavy for now, which makes it obviously tricky. The structure up is tricky. We are potentially still in a place where we can form lower highs, but same case as in BTC. You could be looking for a lower high within a correction zone, that you are just technically looking for another low to be made on a larger time frame, which then gives you that next leg back towards the upside. And levels of interest, for ETH would come in around these previous demand. You're looking at around 2,080 bucks. You do have larger gaps in here. You do have a nice 4-hour order block coming at that price. So that's generally speaking. If you do get a leg down and you do not just full on throttle through this with high volume, that is a level of interest. If that level of interest does break through, I am looking all the way down at 1960. And this is the same as previously. It's that if I take my fibs, time fibs again, you don't have to take it at the exact low. You just have to take it at the same candle to the highs. You can see that our low was made prior to the 3-2. And we have, technically speaking, plenty of time to make another low in here, because we are still within that 1-to-1 time fib. So technically speaking, we have plenty of time to be in here, and it would technically be fine within a green zone. Again, structure looks different from Solana. It's not as bullish. It's not as clear. Also, the structure up did also not tap the 1618 fib extension. So if I do take my fib extension from the lows to highs to lows, doesn't matter which low you use, you can see that we only extended to our extended Fibonacci targets, which is the 1272 and the 1382, which is a valid zone for us to potentially form a lower high and still look for a larger break back towards the downside in a potential A, B, C structure. That then we can start making our way back towards the upside again in a larger ABC up, ABC down, and then we can look for that C wave, which would, be forming the larger structure A, B, C. That would essentially be your larger structure. And this obviously my preferred scenario for all structures would be this. We just gotta wait next 24 hours. We are in a BTC short from higher levels with a stop above the high, which, de-risk by a larger margin. With that said, we did tap the 0.8 and the 886 was not tapped, but we did tap the 0.8, which does increase the chances of sweeping up 2384 before sweeping up this low, and that is at 1740. But it still leaves us potentially with the sweep target at 1.936. So Ethereum, more similar to BTC than Solana. Our level that we should be watching at the moment here locally would be this 2165. If you do start losing this previous low, there are higher chances of coming back down, 2070. You lose that, we're looking all the way down at 1.9. If you start seeing high volume within this initial push down, it is most likely that we are going to see a very fast and aggressive push. That back towards the downside, where we can then start looking for a grindy structure before we look for a potential leg back towards the upside again. So that's really it when it comes to Ethereum. Ethereum has not been as interesting as some other pairs. So I've primarily been focusing on BTC as my main pair, obviously, as the major, and some here and there when it comes to Solana. Especially now we're in a Solana long. We'll see whether it does give us that leg up or not. It is a hedge against our BTC short, which we also have open, compared to that, with that larger structure in mind, with the bullish momentum. Do you guys have any altcoins you would like me to have a look at? If not, I'm just going to go through a few. Just a few I'm keeping an eye on. Cetus. I've been keeping an eye on this. Larger structure, very aggressive rejection, aggressive sell-off. You are forming local higher lows. This does still, it's interesting for a potential lower high, lower low type short. Still missing quite a bit of structure on there, so I'm primarily waiting. Just something that interest is there for. WL5, been in this short for 60 days. This is something I did call in my channel. I did share it. I did share these levels. I think I'm the only one in it still. But this is one is coming back down towards my TP, which is going to be a potential reversal zone. Looking at some type of a finalist 5-way move down. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're making our, 5 with some type of a diagonal type structure. Especially when you're panning out like this, it is not as aggressive. This is aggressive price action. This is when you're starting to find some type of bottom. That's what we're looking for here. For short, Zcash. Zcash was on my interest zone. So we already, Zcash, larger complex corrective structure, potentially some sort of an ABC wave, could also be a triangle of sorts. Either way, this structure did tap the 1-to-1 fib extension. The last impulse up does look, we can count this as a 1, 2, 3. We would still potentially be looking for a 4 and a 5 before my level of interest is tapped. Generally speaking, this is going to be the sweet spot for my shorts, and that is the extended fib target at 12731382 with an invalidation at the 1618. These fibs are taken from, let's see here, from your highs. So obviously it's not on the high, but from the high to the low. you can use both this low and this low. Both are technically fine, but they work for different counts when it comes to Elliott waves. But yeah, that is going to be the sweet zone. So look for a deviation. I can probably lower this one slightly. I do want to have my stop loss slightly higher than that, so because I do want to have my stop loss above these relative equal highs, because I want to leave some room for us to potentially sweep those. But this is going to be such a sweet spot for us to potentially look for shorts, especially if you're considering a correction of the larger structure. If this is our initial structure down and this is a correction of this structure down, typically only reaches between the 382 and the 0.5. If you're looking at macro structure, you can see that that is between the 382 and the 0.5. Not only that, but if I do take my time fibs again, you know I love my time fibs from highs to lows, you can see that that is also right in between that 0.618 and the 1-to-1 in time. So that is an extreme sweet spot when it comes to forming a lower high on the macro time frame, which we can then look for another leg back towards the downside. And initially going to start off as a scalp, but would consider it as a potential swing level as well. So target would, be all the way down at 186, but I would take some profits off at this earlier section of around 355, around 330, with the optimal entry being upwards of that 420, 430 level. So that's one of the levels, or one of the things of which I am looking at the moment, would be this potentially forming a local impulsive structure back up. One finalizing an ABC move. C has 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which we can then start looking for that larger rejection on Zcash. So want to see decreasing amount of volume. I want to see decreasing volume across the board. Maybe we do start seeing some grind even at the highs, even better. But that is what I'm interested in when it comes to Zcash. I'm not as intrigued for the long. Obviously, there is a long to be had in here. You're potentially retesting some larger gaps. You can see that if you're looking at the larger discount, this gap downwards of 335 would be it. But generally speaking, this entire gap would be a level of interest. If I do take my time fibs, as we're trading a potential Elliott wave 4, we do have common targets, and those range between if I take here 4th wave targets, they range between the 3.2 and the 0.5. So this is a level of interest when it comes to potential move down, and then we can potentially start looking for scalp longs. Grab highs initially, and then upwards of that 420 zone. Minimum target still remains the 3.2 even on fibs when it comes to the 4th wave. We have already crossed that, so technically speaking, we can make our way from here. So not as intrigued in longs, but if you do come slightly deeper in here, retest some previous highs in here, we do have quite a clear invalidation around the lows, and we can potentially start looking for a local scalp long at these levels for Zcash to make its wave back to the high and then slightly higher, which we're then looking for a reversal, a short. Any questions in regards of that? I have not had a look at obviously hype. I mean strong bullish continuation. It's continuing. Stop at break even after taking major profits at this early 35 big zone. Beautiful bounce. This is quite similar to Zcash. Obviously it's impulsive. It's an impulsive structure. Most likely a multi 1-2 type structure where we do have a 1-2, 3. So now, I mean, the question would be, is this your 3, 4, 5? Multi 1-2 would count this as a 1-2, 1-2, 3, 4, 5. We want to see one more high at least, and another 4 and a 5. and we're looking for some type of a triple top. You want to see a decreasing amount of volume as these highs are made, which we can then look for the potential end of structure, which starts giving us a larger leg back towards the downside, sweep the lows of 35, potentially make our ways downwards of 28 to 26. But with how we're currently moving, there's no shorts here. Strong bullish momentum, clean 5-wave structures up. Highs, taken out now. Small break of structure. This is just a weight type trade at the moment. So that's, for hype. I do think we had levels slightly higher. Let me check this. Just gonna check the weekly real quick. Drop down 5-day, 3-day. So we did have nothing on those time frames. So we do have a daily. We do have a daily order block. We did previously wake into it though, so that's obviously something to be aware of. But that 46 to $50 zone seems to be the most interesting one at the moment. 618 we do have slightly earlier than that. Okay. It would be around that 705, 786. Yeah. So that's the zone I will be watching when it comes to the move up. But at the moment, strong momentum. There's a small bearish imbalance here on the 12-hour too. Watch this sweep. See what happens after the sweep. If you do come back down and you break structure, so essentially if you do break this low, those shorts become immediately so much more interesting. But with how you're currently moving, you would potentially expect a few more highs to be made in here. At least one more high in here, where we can potentially see a distribution, which we can then start looking for that leg back towards the downside. But beautiful, strong momentum back towards the upside. There's nothing here at the moment though. And we had USDT dominance. This is something I mentioned last week as well. We had very accelerating, very aggressive price action towards the downside. And, we saw that bounce within that zone. We had a larger imbalance, which we previously did look at. We were discussing this, that if you do lose that 7.2, the odds are quite increased that we do potentially make our way at least towards that lower 7, potentially as low as that 6.5, which, for BTC, I'd guess that 6.5 comes in around 84K. And that is your extended targets in this case as well. We're looking for that potential larger A, B, and then we potentially make our way here in a larger C wave. At the moment, we did see a bounce, a reaction. You did not get a break of structure. You did try to. So we did candle. Again, if you look at the candles, we closed above. So this potentially making a higher low is potentially still of interest. But it's not super convincing again with the structure we do have. But keeping an eye on the low time frames, if you do start breaking around 7.8, if there's a lot of volume here, a lot of aggression on that break, there is a high chance that this low is going to be protected, and that we are going to make our way upwards of that 8.3 high. And if that 8.3 high is swept, that's where we can start considering even more, long positions on the larger scale. If you're looking at the potential ABC structure, AB, and then we make our way back down. And this will still be my preferred scenario if this happens. ABC, we get the larger range. And that's the same as BTC, just reversed. So really just going to keep an eye on that. There is a hard invalidation here, and that's 7.4. The second we break 7.4, we are looking downwards of 7.2. That's a bit of a gap there, around 3.2%. All right, let's see here. Yeah, reward limit for hype, need more structure. Yeah, makes sense. It's the same thing for me. BTC potential short. Level. I mean, technically speaking, the level is good. TP target is nice. You do have, yeah, so our one big worry here is that we have an internal structure break and we don't have an external structure break. So if I look out at this, I can be, on any time frame here. If you look at structure, we have our low, we have our high, we have our higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So this is the key area, key low, of which we have to break to correct this structure, which we did not. We get an internal structure break, which at the moment has already happened. That's breaks already played out. That second break is the same as looking at this first break, which, we have already played out. So that is the one big worry about the current structure. Yeah, this exactly. That's why we want to see the lower time frame confirmation. I'm still intrigued in the short in this level, but I need lower time frame confirmation. I need to see local distribution. I need to see some sort of do we get a bit of a 1, 2, 3 type top? Potentially, your best case, we get a 15-minute break of structure, and then we look for that short, and we can have a tighter stop loss invalidation at the highs, because your TP target can still remain the same, or essentially starting off at that 7.5, but still remain your weights downwards of that 68.4 or whatever you're targeting. Because if you are starting to break down, it is most likely we're going to see a quite a aggressive move, at least downwards of that 68.8, 68.4, with the potential of downwards of 65. But we are trading against momentum, so that's why we do want to see the confirmation. We do have an internal structure break, but at the same time, we do have an internal structure break upwards. Because if you look at this as our internal structure, we have high, low, high, low, high, low, high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, higher high. That's your break. So we have that at the moment. Technically speaking, we have a breakout structure there too. That's really why we need that second type of confirmation here, because we haven't broken external structure. There's no break in here, which is what you need to break for us to see that larger leg down. It's still, technically speaking, a valid trade. Like, it makes sense from especially a risk to reward perspective. But to have those probabilities on your side, you want to see confirmation. And that's, it comes in many shapes or forms, but you want to have some type of a confirmation before taking. It's not, it's since you are trading against the momentum, it is lower probability. But at the same time, you are trading with the higher time frame trend. Lower high, lower high, lower high. Yeah, you're trading in a premium zone, so it's not really a low probability setup, but it's a setup which I would personally need a second type of confirmation on before I can be confident in targeting the lows of 70.6 or even lower 65. I am already short from higher levels with a stop over the highs, so I have no reason to add extra risk just yet. But if I do get the confirmation, I am happy to add the extra risk on the table. But at the moment, there's just nothing for me there. And I've marked this out previously, and we can see that we have, this is the 4-hour low. Obviously, this is not a 4-hour, so it looks like we broke it, but we didn't. That is the structure break we got. We got the push down from it. This is a 4-hour high. So 1 hour high, that's what we broke. We broke through that high. So right now the 1 hour uptrend, the 1 hour trend is up. And then marking out the 50-minute structure, we can see that 50-minute high, and then we have this as our current 50-minute low. It's going to see if this low makes another high, then we have this as our 50-minute low. And then we're just going to keep an eye on that. We'll see. A potential distribution type structure would obviously be your most common 1, 2, 3 structure, triple top with a decreasing amount of volume at the highs. That may be of interest, even if you only trade it back towards this low, where you then can move your stop loss to break even, or just tighten it up. Then you leave a runner. Or a type 2 distribution, and we get this 1, 2, 3, and we stop from current price. But this was and is my sweet spot for shorts, if you're looking for the rejection. But at the moment, I mean, you can drop us down as low as the 5 minutes. How many different models do I have? I mean, it's like primarily 2, and then the structure is obviously going to look slightly different here and there, which that's the way I work around it. And those are primarily Elite Wave. That's the base of all my trades. It's Elite Waves, and then it's structure. Well, you gotta be strict on certain aspects for sure. Like you gotta have proper rules and management, or it's a fast way to burn money. And you'll know that like all my levels come from a same type of analysis, and it's mostly fibs, imbalances, order blocks, and fib extensions. Those 4 primarily mark out my levels, and then my directional bias, which is that's where am I favoring longs or shorts. That's where Elite Waves primarily come in at. With Elite Waves gives me clear invalidations for structures which are not just highs and lows, and also probabilities in the direction of that I'm trading in. This live is recorded, that's correct. But I think we're gonna come towards an end on this, guys. We'll end the recording